Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Hello, everybody. There are 4 people sitting in front of a curtain in a hotel room in Anaheim, California right now, and that's because Into the Nexus is doing its best to record a live episode from BlizzCon 2018. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. I'm sitting here, as always, with Kyle Fergusson. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Garrett.
But not as always. We're also sitting here with Kristen Ashton. Hey, Kristen.
Hello. Hello.
How you doing?
Doing well this evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, because this is very relaxing. I'm with friends. It's quiet.
It is. It is very quiet, especially after HGC. It's very calm.
Yeah. And returning, I would say triumphantly, because I've gotten so many tweets about how good your episode was, and I agree with them, is NotParadox. Welcome back to the show, dude.
Oh, what's up, guys? It was a blast before, and I am back earlier than expected, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, yeah, I'm pretty excited. So, should be pretty good. I'll steal this if you want to. So, yeah, I'm NotParadox. If you don't know who I am, I've got just a little YouTube channel. I've been making content for the last 6 months, and I was on Into the Nexus, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And we talked about Mount Gannis, and we talked about the meta, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Some predictions about BlizzCon, so...
Which none... Well, they shook things up.
They shook
that
things
happened.
up. They shook things up.
Yes.
A lot of Hero League changes that were... I was hoping for some, but I wasn't expecting all of them.
They did the combine. They jumped straight to the combine.
They did. So I've heard some things both ways about that, but either way, I think it's gonna be good for the queue times. So
yeah. Well, I guess we should rewind back to the thing we expected, which was a single hero,
And not a Blizzard hero.
No.
Well, I mean, it is a Blizzard hero, but not a known Blizzard hero. Not from not an existing known quantity from a universe we are familiar with.
There is, like, my headcanon at the moment. By the way, it's Orphea. If you haven't seen it, it's Orphea. It's the girl of the Raven Lord's daughter. And I am going to imagine that she is a high priestess of Yogg-Saron, because she summons lots of teeth and these venom sort of powers, and like I get in my head, I'm like, what a unique silhouette. It's really cool. If you did another person with a staff or a hat, it looks like White Mane, it looks like Jaina. We have fire covered. We have 2 colors of fire. We have ice, and then we had to do ice chains because we already did ice. So it's a really unique mage and has a great auto attack, and it's a lot of fun. And I got to play 4 hours of it. It was badass.
Yeah, you've been streaming a ton from the BlizzCon floor. 2 of those hours were with me against Dunk Train. Yeah.
Where we learned Trial by Fire. But I do want to pass it to Kristen, because there was a innate ability of you to grab on this hero, and it was really amazing because I had to learn. Dunk Train did the things to me, and then I did them back to him, and eventually won a game. But it just snapped for you. So tell me about Orphea.
All right. She's a bruiser. Plain and simple. She's a straight up regen bruiser. Kind of Illidan Sonya mix. So that's why it works, because I play a lot of Illidan Sonya. So you go in, you regen, and her movement ability is very, very unique, but it feels very smooth. So she has her Q, you hit a hero, and then you immediately shift where your mouse is. So it's going to take some getting used to, but it feels very intuitive. And you can use it offensively, you can use it defensively, which means you can really go deep and chase somebody down, but as soon as the fire gets too hot, you just pull back, rejoin your team, and you're good.
She is a mage, but I mean, I think I agree. Like, I saw you.
She has more health than Rexar, right?
That's true.
She's right around Rexar.
Around Rexar. No, yeah,
Oh, sorry. Rexar's a tank.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
We'll just sit back here because.
No. Yeah. You're right. It's like it was amazing to see that Sonya play. There's so many comparisons you want to make. There's a Leoric comparison where you have to hit heroes, so it's like, oh, what great lane clear. But it kind of sucks if you don't hit somebody with it and you don't get your resets and your mana back and you run out of mana. There's like all the abilities do damage sort of thing that makes you go, oh, it's Jaina, but she has that shift. And you're right. Like, if you go in aggressively and you shift forward and you do the auto attack, I can see why the Sonya gameplay immediately clicked with you. And you destroyed our poor opponents.
I mean, and it's pretty much like if you have Spear and it always pulls, right? You take that talent. So if you have that under wraps, you're going to have how to hit with her Q.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, there's a lot of comboage if you're ready for that with the teeth slamming in and then you follow up with your E and your Q. And it's very aggressive, but it's a really fun hero. And I hope that translates to people at home because it is spooky. I'm with you that like now every time they're like, check out this shadow. We're like, oh, are you going to trick me? Is that a shadow of a thing?
Yeah, that you make me think of Hearthstone in that way, especially around BlizzCon. Because around BlizzCon, anytime I get here and we start talking to Team 5 folk, they're like, hey, what do you think it is? And I'm just sitting here being like, you can't guess anymore. It's pointless. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. They've really made it their own thing. They could take it and it's like, well, yeah, there's trolls, but what way are you going? There's a wacky, weird trolls, like water skiing trolls at the beach of Stranglethorn, or are we doing like 1-to-1 BFA trolls? It's more 1-to-1 BFA trolls.
You ever WoW fished? And it's like, what do you talk about? And then the whole thing's fishing themed and like they just...
Yeah, so you get to that point and it's whatever. It's just that by now we are kind of used to being able to guess what the next hero is. But the other thing, and I think I was talking about this to a buddy of mine that works for Blizzard, was that again, while we're also talking about Hearthstone or card games in general, something that comes up so often when we talk about card games, when we talk about cards that are problematic that need to either be removed or nerfed or dealt with in some way, is because certain cards can limit design space. And I think when you look at heroes and you think about designing heroes around existing known characters, in a way that limits your design space.
There is a world that I fully imagine where someone was like, look at this. Look at these Venom powers I made. Look at the graphics. And someone's like, my God, those are beautiful. Who could possibly do it?
Yeah, like who could do it? I thought the same exact thing. Like, I was like, this seems like they made the character or the all the abilities first, and they were like, well, now who do we put this on? Like, we could do like some old god, but we kind of want it a little bit different. We want it to kind of be a little bit like playful in the way that it plays. So we can't have that on an old god.
You also
you also have
to think about character size too. Like when you're dealing with old gods, like they can't be small and nimble.
True. And this is the thing about her movement, and there's one particular build that reminded me. Have you guys played Darkest Dungeon by any chance?
Oh yeah.
So there's one of the compositions in Darkest Dungeon is called like a movement comp, where each character has a way to like move around, and sometimes you'll have it to where when one guy goes first, he moves into one position, moving everyone else into their positions, and then someone will do something, and that'll move them into another position. And then she reminded me of that because there's one build where you can use your Q. And when your Q's done, it allows you to move a short distance. So then you move forward and use your W, and there's a talent that makes it to where after your W, you move backward. And then right as you move backward, the range you're in is exactly the range to hit the end of the Q again, which allows you to move again. And to me, it was just kind of fascinating because it reminded me a lot of Darkest Dungeon, where I was just like, I was moving into the position of another ability, and that moved me back into the position of my first ability, which then allows me to move again. And I was like, this is kind of fun. It's like a combo based character. And so I think they had that kit in mind, and they just couldn't figure out one character that could fit everything. And they were just like, all right, let's just start something new. Let's do something different. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it. It's like, well, what else would this kid even belong to? Because I'm not looking at Orphea and immediately think to myself, oh, this is clearly just, I'm trying to think of a character they haven't added. This is just Arcturus Manx's kit, clearly, and they just wanted a goth Lolita character to get all the fanboys revved up.
Did it work though?
I'm not.
That's the question. Did it work?
Am I being asked by Kristen if I'm into goth Lolita?
No,
Is that where there's just?
You're into it. But if it's a legitimate part of the marketing consideration, because they gave her the schoolgirl outfit, to go with the janitor Leoric, and we have the Kerrigan, and we have the Li Ming. But will it work? Has it already worked?
We're not sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out. Unless we want to just go around like, who's in the goth Lolita? Raise your hand. I mean, we could, if that's what the show wants to become.
I don't know. Maybe I'm.
I mean, I did go to Anime Expo.
There we go.
All right.
We've all been to Anime Expos. We've all been there.
We've all been there once.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but overall, I think it's good. I think it's fine. It's a good hero. She fits. She works. She looks like she belongs hanging out with the rest of the characters that are in this roster. If I'm going to be critical, I think it's a bold move. It's a bold move coming to BlizzCon and not having any fanfare, because I don't particularly find her design all that interesting. I don't know why they think the Ravenlord is such a cool character. I think he's boring as hell.
The Thanos. It's the Thanos. They couldn't bring the Thanos to Heroes, so they gave him the Ravenlord, I think, is what's going on.
Yeah. He's just so dull and vanilla.
No, I feel they are in love with it, and they really enjoyed their time making things like Sky Temple, and then being like, okay, we're gonna put Spider Queen under it. Isn't that cool, guys? And we're like, we just want maps. Like, what do you? I'm glad you're happy with it, but there is. I do appreciate that BlizzCon is in its own sphere. And they even said during the sort of presentation of her during the HGC finals that this will not be happening for a long time again. This was a character that just was so fresh, so ready, so passionate that they had to make it, and they don't have anything else in the pipeline like it. And like I was saying earlier about the silhouettes, the teases, BlizzCon was the place for it. And, like, compared to all the other games, there is an overwhelming amount of trust we have in the Heroes team. Like, they're like, go on this journey with us. And we're like, yes. And like, by the way, we're fundamentally changing the way you get XP. And we're like, okay. All right. And we're cheering and loving it.
I think you and I are like that. Have you been on the Reddit lately? I don't think everyone's on board.
I mean, in comparison to Reddits across the Blizzard franchises, ours is a beacon of hope.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the Reddits are a little strange right now, but overall, I mean, most of the people that have played with some of these changes, like on the actual floor, they have the experience changes, they have the catapult changes, and they have Orphea. And I've talked to a lot of people, and it seems like most people are pretty optimistic about them after playing them. Reading them, I was even kind of the same way. Just reading after they made the changes, I was like, this is a lot of changes. Like, and the experience ones, I'm like, I can't really comprehend how much that's going to change until I really feel it and until I watch some like pros play it. So it's a little interesting.
It's easy to ignore how much we need that each year. These are our expansions, things like a support Apocalypse and going through and changing, the way the tower ammo worked. Those fundamentally change what we draft and how we think about the game, and then we get stale and BlizzCon figures things out, and yeah, we maybe nerf the globals before BlizzCon so we can at home, and like things are going to get shooken up in that way, but this actually like changes the way I get to play the very next year.
Yeah, but all those other changes you just rattled off, I felt like we could wrap our heads around it. We could at least have some semblance of an idea of how it was going to affect the game, but I'm with NotParadox here, and like, I don't know what Heroes of the Storm is going to look like here. And I'm a little more biased. Y'all know I'm such a big fan of playing Specialists, but not only are Specialists as a name not surviving the recategorization of Heroes, on top of almost never seeing pro play, but now the game appears to just be fighting back against their existence.
Except for the mercenary camps, right? Because we get that extra XP with mercenary camps. And then earlier today, I think the most level lead we ever got was a 2-level lead. So it always felt like if we were going to lose the game, it's because our team simply couldn't fight against the enemy team. Because we would have 2 characters, farting off in different lanes while a team fight was happening, and that's simply how it's going to go. So it didn't feel bad. It feels like it's going to accomplish what they mentioned on the stage, is that they want to close the gap in terms of how many 4-level leads there are out there.
Yeah, I felt like I thought that early forts felt better than they did before. Like, while getting that early experience was nice, it was like, okay, you could be a higher level during a fight, but then the fight was less exciting because one team just had 10, the other one didn't, so it just turned into a trade, a missed fight. This way, people were kind of closer level in the beginning for a lot of the early objectives, but then, like, if you got an early fort, you still had a huge advantage because you were getting a catapult every 3, and that was really big. And then the other thing that was really interesting was the camps, the way that they did it. If you can get a camp before an objective spawns, it's worth way more than what it was before, only because you get more experience per camp. But if you can leave someone in that lane to defend against it, then it's worth a lot more to them. Well, it breaks even, because now you get as much experience by clearing a camp as you did, or defending against a camp as you did clearing a camp. And I think that's kind of interesting, because we saw some times where I'd grab a camp right before we would do an objective, and it almost valued them more to go back and stop that camp because they were to get the experience from it. And it was interesting. The experience, there were a couple games I got about 3 levels ahead, so it's still possible, but I will say it's a lot harder. But split pushing, I still see some value in it, because early game, we had one of the games where I was playing and I just was solo queuing through the whole thing. And I got the Zagara on my team who was just split pushing the whole game. And the first time he went top and he cleared top, and Catapults started going just 1 every 3 waves. Then he went bot, and we had Catapults pushing both sides when the objectives were going up. And I was like, and it was early in the game, and I was like, this is actually pretty interesting to see. So I think wave clear heroes gain more priority, but they're definitely trying to push it to more team fighting for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, to rattle off those facts, remove all experience earned from destroying forts and keeps.
Yeah. You still get it from towers, I believe.
Yeah.
So, sorry. You still get it from towers. So.
Right. So 50% less from towers. Early in the year, we were talking about my Nazebo farming nothing but towers, and then we won the game with leads.
Yeah, and like, who doesn't love winning? But do you really want that to be your game? Like,
right.
I'm just gonna play Nazebo every game. What am I doing? Getting early towers? That's Heroes of the Storm for me now. That's not healthy.
It was dirty. They cleaned it up. That was when we removed that tower, and then we put that XP on the other towers, and things got a little, moved around weird there. Passive experience increased by 15%. This is your trickle. Do any of you have any feeling for how this actually goes? Because it seems spooky, but it's 15%.
I played a lot of games, and I don't think I hit level 20 on any of them. So while that seems like it's bumping up the experience for not doing as much stuff, now part of this also is that a lot of the people that I was playing with were not they didn't play a lot of Heroes of the Storm. So
BlizzCon floor matchmaking.
Yeah, it was kind of a lot of people wanting to maybe get back into it, and but I don't think I hit level 20 at all throughout that entire time. No, there's maybe 1 or 2 games where I just barely hit 20 before we won or before we lost. But I don't think it's going to be as big of a difference as people think. The experience tends to be about the same in terms of what level you're going to be during what objective. So I don't think it's going to be too big.
Increased experience gained by defeating mercenary camps by 100%. And the scandalous one, defeating lane mercenaries will now grant 100% defeated mercenary experience. And this is the one I think I've heard the most this is the blue shell. We don't want blue shells. You're winning, and now I'm going to feed experience.
But this is kind of working to stop pulling apart the levels, right? They're trying to keep things close. So do these people win all the time and they don't understand what it's like in a losing game?
I
You know that they want XP fed to them to get leads?
I think it's kind of a weird one because on paper it seems like it's really good for both teams, but what I noticed is like, and I think this is why they nerfed the globals actually. Like after seeing this, it makes a lot of sense because they want your camps to be more impactful. And now if you get a camp, it's worth twice as much experience. And if you don't have someone defending against that camp, if you just say, hey, you know what, let's ignore that camp that they just got. Let's go for the objective. You're losing a huge chunk of experience. Not only is it probably going to destroy your towers, which still give experience. Now the keeps don't and the forts don't. But they're going to lose out on all that experience from not clearing that camp. So it's kind of interesting because I think that's the main reason why they did nerf the global side is because they wanted to make sure that camps were more effective. But is it kind of a rubber band to keep people catching up with everyone? Is that the blue shell? I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, and there is a world where you do mess up, which is kind of neat and tactical. Let's say you force a fight in bottom of Dragonshire, and then you're like, let's take all the 3 camps. But the whole enemy team never died. You feed 3 camps one at a time into your enemy who is already there. They destroy them. You just split a sandwich. Nobody gets more sandwich.
Yeah, but you still made them react. You still most likely made your enemies react in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise. They may have gone and taken their own mercenary camps. They may have had a concerted effort on a single lane and actually taken down one of your forts and gotten periodic catapults.
Right, and the idea that bronze and silver would suffer because you are feeding XP into your enemy, I think we counter that by saying, wait, is someone doing a proper rotation and taking a merc camp in bronze and silver? I think you're already doing a little better in the first place.
That's where my head's at, too. And I think it's easy to understand. If it's worth the same amount of XP as defending as it is when it's taking, that is just so easy. That is such an easy concept to get across to everyone. And I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. I'm even talking about myself here. I'm like, that's awesome. I now know that it is what it is. And it reinforces how important it is to soak. Now, defending mercenaries is part of that soak.
I have one question, and I don't know if anyone knows the answer. I missed the panel because I was doing my interview during the same time as the panel. For Volskaya, if you pick up the turret and you capture it, it doesn't send a minion. Do you get all the experience for destroying the turret?
No idea.
Okay.
I have no clue.
Something I'm going to have to probably ask someone. I am a little curious about that. Yeah.
But here's the question.
Start messaging Bethany right now.
Are the turret camps known as mercenary camps? Maybe we're starting to see that split in vocabulary. Okay.
They currently are, but maybe that will be a split in vocabulary.
Yeah, so maybe that was a word that we missed flying by when we saw what was going to be updated. Vocabulary.
Terminology.
Yeah, they're empowered by Sylvanas and Sonya talents, right? So they count as... But what? So
we've already had a Heroes 2.0. Now we're going to have Heroes Dictionary 2.0.
Yes.
But Paradox isn't wrong. Like, we can look at recent balance patches, and they do these things with maps. And is there anything we can see coming from, like, recent reworked Hanamura or Garden Terror that would suggest... there's no items there. Well...
Can you destroy the healing packet you pick up on Volskaya? And that speaks to the turrets, right? If you destroy the little healing beam, if you can, do you get XP for that? How would you balance that, I guess?
I would assume you just don't. Because, I'm glad you brought up the healing packets. I wasn't even thinking about it. So there's more than one mercenary camp in this game that drops a usable item.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting to me because it's the one camp, let's say they do tie the experience to the turret. It's the one camp you could just deny experience by just dropping a turret in your base. You could just take all the turrets and just drop them in your base. They'll time out and the enemies won't get experience. Now that's already a map that if you grab all the camps consistently, you will get an experience lead. But that would be kind of an interesting strategy we might see is just people just wasting turrets to try to get that like 16 to 15 level lead.
Wait. And they just went through and changed all the healers, so they can't target non-heroes, a lot of them, or can only target heroes.
Yeah.
So Morales on Volskaya becomes super valuable because she can heal the turret, making so you never lose XP.
I could see some weird strategies coming from this, but I'll have to ask someone to see. We'll have to ask someone to see if the experience, because right now those camps give a lot of experience, and if they're trying to even out the experience, and if it's been doubled, then they have to find some way to even it out. And if it's turrets, that when you destroy the turret or when you destroy the heal camp, because you can destroy the heal camp, if that's what it is, I wonder if there's gonna be a strategy of like just dropping them in places that they can't kill. I don't know, but I don't know. I think in general we're gonna see some interesting changes in terms of strategy, and that's another thing too. We're gonna see the camps be almost more strategized than they were before, because you don't want to feed free experience. You want to make sure that you're getting them at the right time. So I think the timing of camps will be a lot more important than it was before.
I just sent a question off, by the way. We'll see if we get an answer. No, send it to Bethany. See if she just happens to run across someone who can answer that question, or she knows offhand because it's already been asked to her. We'll hope maybe we'll get it before we end this recording.
Well, we did say earlier something that sounded very scandalous, I'm sure, which is the removal of all experience from the forts and keeps. This is accompanied by the periodic catapults. So, as big of the words as they are, when you destroy a fort, the words periodic catapults hover up out, and that is your reward. No longer the level lead. The map control was always there. I thought reward enough sometimes, but now every third lane, so one lane goes by. Spawns and rolls out 2, and then 3. That third will have a catapult.
And the first wave after you get a fort, doesn't that start it? So you get the fort, and then it summons 1 catapult wave, and then it's the 3. Or am I wrong on that?
I feel like it takes longer, but I'm not
can't
sure.
Really. I didn't really pay attention to it. I just saw a catapult, and I was like, oh, it must have been the third wave. So I didn't really pay attention to it. But it felt like the first one was. It felt like the first catapult I saw was pretty soon after, but I might just have been not paying attention to the waves that were going by. But it seems pretty. Be. I don't know. It's surprisingly impactful. They did change the scaling, so the early ones, say you like 5-man rush a fort, it's almost like just a lane minion that early on, but it does scale. So if you 5-man a fort, it'll eventually get pretty scary. So even if it's not actually a keep, it'll eventually get its keep. So. It's kind of a weird way to speed up the game, even though the experience the way they change the experience, it feels like the games are getting a little bit slower. So they kind of did 2 things to even it out. It's really a change in the playstyle that, again, I'd like to see it in competitive a little bit.
But there is a time for catapults in our minds right now that make us make mistakes, because they show up in the late game when we're no longer focused on soaking. We're focused on roaming as a group and winning the video game. When these things come out, and let's say Sylvanas at level 4, like just solos a lane and takes your fort, you're gonna be in that lane because you want XP. It's not as tragic and it's on the core as it is at that 20-minute mark.
It does make the mid-game more interesting, though, because when things, especially because of the way objectives work in this game, you're going to be moving around. I'm just thinking of like Infernal Shrines, for example. If you're having that pit fight, but a fort already went down somewhere, suddenly at like level 8 or 9, you might be legitimately concerned about catapults pushing down a lane.
And the collapse standing in the circle when they hit you in a low-level team fight is going to be very painful.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about lane collapse. You're right. That's also another thing to consider. But what I was going to get to is that I think you kind of started to hit on there, NotParadox, is the negative feedback I've seen concerning this change to no XP on fort and keeps is that it's going to be all about team fighting. It's all going to be about these pub stompings.
Hold on, all about team fights? Isn't that what they've been complaining about this whole time? Is that it hasn't been a team fight game, and now there's an upset that it's going to be a team fight game.
You two should go out on a date sometime, because I'm pretty sure that sounded like one of the Kyle things of, I assume opposite opinions I read on the internet are written by the same person.
It seems that way.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I mean, that is we see that complaint all the time. But what I find interesting, at least from my time on the show floor playing this build of Heroes of the Storm, is the game feels a little more methodical, a little more strategic with these changes. That's my gut reaction to these changes.
Yeah, I think generally that's it. That's just they were trying to answer some things, and I think people need to understand that a lot of times these meta changes are the ones that really make a difference. Like, they're the ones that let us think about new strategies. They're the ones that change up the meta. We saw the ammo being removed, and there were some people that were like, this is really dumb. Like, now it's just going to be like League of Legends. It's going to be like these other games. And it never was, but it did change up a lot of the characters, and a lot of characters went out of being played. They had to remove a lot of talents that removed ammo. They had to buff the characters that got the ammo removal. So the cool part is we might see a nice big meta shakeup, which means that all the same heroes that we keep seeing in all the pro games, all the same heroes we keep seeing in Hero League, we might get to see some new ones, some ones we haven't seen in a while. So I'm always excited for big changes, even if I disagree with them. Like reading this, a couple of the things that I read, I was like, we're a little scary. But then I'm like, I just want to see what happens, see how it affects it. And if it's really bad, there's a good chance they'll take it back. So.
Right. There's a lot of trust in this relationship we have with the devs, and that's what makes a lot of this really exciting, because I know what it's been like after these changes. It's scary going into Christmas because they said Rise of the Nexus will probably be the event that this comes about. They were looking at like December 4th. Which means the long Christmas meta, which means the January 10th or even February is when we clean it up if it's messed up. So there's always those fears going into Christmas because, family and then being alive can get in the way.
I'd be curious. They would never give us those numbers, but I would assume that a lot of people also just kind of stop playing around that time.
That's true.
Probably doesn't affect as large amount of the player base as we think. Christmas is the time that a lot of us travel, see family, get games as gifts, and play other games. I can't wait to curl up with Red Dead. It happens. So I think, those of us talking about the game as part of a job, we're going to be a little more biased around that time of the year.
True. And it is when I tend to lock in and really find my character during this brand new time and get a lot of climbing done. I do want to ask everybody if they have any ideas of anything scandalous with the Catapults. We tried out a Sylvanas possession. It's going to happen.
Literally.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, granted, you are drafting to not necessarily to lose, but to be behind, which is still better than drafting to lose. But your forts are going to go down. That's my thought.
Yeah.
That is my thought, because you remember, back in the early Braxis days when we were like, oh my God, Sindragosa freezes the waves, draft Arthas. And then we're like, wait, if we're drafting Arthas to freeze the wave, it means we're expecting to lose the objective.
Yeah.
And we're probably still not going to win the game. Thinking about Sylvanas for possession for Catapult, I don't think that's nearly as one-sided.
But I wonder if that is a strategy to just lose a fort so you get double catapults. Like you trade wherever you lose a fort, you trade a fort, and then both teams are summoning catapults, and you literally just possess theirs every time that it goes through, and you get double catapults. And it's just kind of a funny strategy because there you go. It's kind of just a funny strategy because how do you counter that? If that does become a good strategy, they can't not destroy your forts.
What I would like to see, and hear me out, Internet, is instead of nerfing Sylvanas' possession, let's just say, look, we're definitely putting the cart before the horse, but it's fun. Let us have this fun right now. Is that let's say that becomes a legitimate strategy to intentionally sack your own forts so you can get their forts, so you can get double catapults early on. Instead of nerfing possession, why not make it a more bribe-like talent? Spread it around. Find some other heroes where that would make sense, where they can get their own version of the talent. My only hang up there is I don't know how you make it unique. Because on Sylvanas, it's just a button. You just press it. We have actually made hero-unique versions of bribe that I think work rather well.
I mean, like a Death Knight could kill a unit and then bring it back. Like if you finish off a unit with an ability, it comes back as an undead version of that unit.
Ooh, so say Arthas uses his trait.
You could bring it back.
Frostborn Tigers. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not Arthas, because I'm not sure how much that makes sense for a warrior. But
I mean, we're seeing a Sylvanas rework, so I don't know how long the strategy, if they leave possession in there, which I hope they do, is a fun idea, and it's kind of a core of her whole kit, but I don't know. We don't know too much about that. I don't know. Again, that was in the panel that I ended up missing.
No, they didn't have any information.
Okay. Just making sure.
Well, so two sides of it, right? They like that Sylvanas, if left alone, is an issue, but she is being classified in the roles, which we might as well talk about. as a ranged assassin, and they want her to be a force as a ranged assassin. And the way they talked about it gave you imaginings of they want her to jump in the middle and start screaming, and for everyone to be scared of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the whole role system does seem kind of interesting. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so our roles are going to be tank, which ETC is a tank, Johanna's a tank, Blaze is a tank. They've made those decisions. Bruisers. Bruisers are going to have things like Sonya, but Thrall and Malthael.
Finally.
Yeah?
I like that.
I mean, you've played a lot of Malthael for us, Kristen. Like, what do you think of that? Does Thrall and then Sonya, is that Bruiser?
Thrall, definitely. I agree with Thrall being under Bruiser.
I think Malthael's up for debate, but he's still high regeneration.
Yeah, but that's assuming you can hit everything and your mana's not going to be running low. I just feel he's at the weaker end of Bruiser. I don't go into a fight.
After that impassioned Orphea is a Bruiser speech?
Yeah, but Orphea's stronger than Malthael, and I totally believe she's going to be nerfed. Right, she is tuned way, way up, and it feels great right now. So play her when you can. Just play as much as you can, because she's going to be, I don't know, health and damage, I guess. I would
expect to see her to get a balance before she even hits live.
Yeah, maybe she's just really special right now.
It's BlizzCon. You don't want folks playing your BlizzCon hero and be like, yeah, I lost every game. Mm-hmm. That's not fun.
Yeah, so Malthael I would say is debatable, but the rest of it seemed pretty on par.
Yeah, there's a couple talents of hers that I think they're probably going to adjust before even PTR. I really do. There's just a couple that seem a wee bit strong right now.
How about that level 20 with her second ult, where, 6 seconds if you hit a hero and they die? Oh my goodness, we were chaining that.
Here's the thing. I'm okay with that. I like big level 20 upgrades. Especially, I'm okay with them even tuning down a hero's kit to the point where they're a little weak, but then if they hit 20, like Tassadar, for example, if he hits 20, it's he's a completely different hero. He's a real member of the team at that point. Same with Nazeebo. But otherwise, I'm okay with that. But then they need to tune her down a little bit so that she's not just strong and then she hits 20 and she's way too strong. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like her 20s. But yeah, a lot of her 20s are a little strong. Mm-hmm. But either way, yeah, the new role system. I don't know. For me, Malthael, I would say fits more in a melee assassin. I think they were just trying to throw bruisers as all the people that go top lane or off lane, and I'm not really sure. He's just he regens a lot, but he's squishy. He can get bursted.
That is true. But the way he plays, I feel my last defense, I guess, is that if you play bruisers, if you play Thrall, if you play Sonya, I think you can make the jump to Malthael safely.
For play style, you think I completely agree. I think he definitely fits the bruiser play style. It's a little bit in, take a little bit of damage, step back a bit, but then kind of get in there and take damage again. Yeah, I agree. I definitely think he fits the bruiser play style.
It's the melee mage dance. If you're Kael'thas and you're then back and forth, you're doing it in people's faces.
True. Yeah, I haven't looked at all of them. Where does Alarak? Did anyone catch where Alarak and Zeratul are?
Right, I don't know. And Ragnaros, who doesn't have...
I saw he was under Bruiser.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't like the guy because it's come and get it, and you have to walk at him. If it's not a W build, I don't mentally grasp it yet. But yeah, let me see. But our other roles they went healer was the term they used. Mm-hmm. And this is, everybody who heals. You know them because you want them on your team, not the support, which is your Zarya, your Abathur.
Utility.
Oh, no, they call it...
they call it support, but I feel like it's interesting because it's support and it's also map support. Mm-hmm. Because Lost Vikings fits under support. And I think that's fascinating because to me, they're using the term support not necessarily you're supporting the group in terms of extra shields or something, but it's more you're supporting the group in some major way. So it's also map support because they threw the Lost Vikings in support and they don't give any sort of shields or anything. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And then our final ones were melee assassin and ranged assassin.
Yeah, I think it's semantics, but I think utility would have been a better call in that particular way. Also because we've used the term support for this game's entire life in referencing usually healers. So I like utility better. But I'm sorry, Kyle, what were those last two again?
just assassins divided by either their melee or their ranged.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, which is important.
But what do you do with Greymane and Raynor, who have the animations, right?
No, yeah, right.
What do you do with Greymane and Raynor?
I also found out on the show floor that Raynor in his commander has no bayonet and has his new melee animation where he's just poking him with the end of the gun.
Yeah, he has a skin with a shotgun, and it was already like that. He'd just poke him with the end of a shotgun. But yeah, I think Greymane's kind of weird because he is melee half the time and he's ranged half the time, and a lot of times the drafts will adjust around the one that you actually want. Like sometimes people will be like, if you're running like an Uther with a Greymane, your idea is that he's going to be melee. You're giving him armor, you're giving him divine shield. He's going to be melee. But if you pick like a Greymane alongside maybe a Tassadar, a lot of the times he's going to be staying in his range forms more often. So it is kind of weird. I don't know what he's classified as. If I were to take a guess, I would say ranged. Maybe they just put his picture under both. I don't know. But where did they put Varian? Does anyone know?
Let's see. So Alarak is a melee assassin. Gazlo is a melee assassin. Murky is a melee assassin.
Because he slaps you with fish.
He does slap you with
He's never
fish.
been a range.
I think those are decent calls. Yeah, Alarak has some range, but he's not killing you unless he's on you.
I would have figured Gazlo would have been a bruiser. Am I alone in that? He's got like armor. He's kind of tanky. I mean, he has no self heal, so maybe that's do all the bruisers have self heal?
Maybe. Well, that's a good question, actually. I mean, I do see things that you would expect, like Artanis, but
he's got his own shield version of
Chen's a bruiser in this list.
Okay, own shield version.
Yeah. Zool,
Yeah.
healing, self healing.
Varian.
Okay, that's where he fits. Okay.
Yeah, so it has bruiser has to do with self regeneration, and Diva, but she's in and out of her mech and regenerating because she's mech biz.
Did I tell you my idea for Diva?
No.
Oh, I didn't know if that was on the thing or not. I was during the time that I did Into the Nexus, I was like really hyped on this idea for Diva, where you could get out of your mech and the percent of health, so you could just press a button and get out at any time. You could either do the bomb or you could just get out. And if you get out, whatever health your Diva mech was at is how much charge you have to get your mech back. Oh. So you have a way to heal your own mech, and you don't lose experience anymore when you lose your mech. So should I send this someplace? Should I?
Yeah, totally.
Text Bethany again? No.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know what you do is you timestamp this on SoundCloud, and you just send it to like KO. Yeah, just send it to KO. Yeah, I like that. So, the one last big thing we need to talk about is Hero League and Team League being combined.
Inevitability, I think, based on queue times and how the reception's been for the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed Team League. The queues were really, really fast. I've talked to a few people about this that they're all Grandmaster players, and they're not so sure about it. And I kind of agree. I guess right now Team League's kind of strange because you can have a bronze player queue up with a Masters player, and then the Masters player could shot call that they could throw the bronze player on like Lily, and then they're facing gold players, and the Grandmaster player or Master player is just gonna pretty much just stomp the floor. And so it's been a thing where people have been boosting a lot, and there's actually like reasons to boost. In Hero League, there's like no way to know that you're always going to be on the same team as someone. And the other thing too is you can have a Smurf, you can have a Grandmaster player go on a Smurf that's like silver and boost up any of his friends. And so my worry about putting them combined, I have two questions about it. One, actually, I don't know if this has been answered yet. When they combined Hero League and Team League, has it been answered how your MMR is going to be?
No, you don't know which one you made, the one with your friends or the one you worked on by yourself. But they have said that you will press a button if you wish, and it could be the Hero League button that says, I wish to only solo queue, and people who play Team League solo are flagged as not caring.
I get that. People's concern is mainly that Team League, you can boost your score very easily by grouping up with like Smurfs or whatever, and then that's still the same score as Hero League. Like right now, Hero League was just kind of that score of I earned this myself. I hit masters or grandmasters or whatever by myself, and I didn't have any help, and I didn't do anything about it. I didn't pay anyone. I didn't group up with friends that were Smurfs. I didn't do anything. And I think that's where people are a little bit concerned about that side. But overall, like, I'm excited for the queue times. Even still, like, okay, I mean, maybe the rewards are going to diminish a little bit because there might be some people who just boost all the time. But generally, I think just the queue times is going to be healthy for the game. So
yeah. And then jumping off of what you said, do you believe, and this goes out to everybody, but do you guys believe there's a certain level that you can climb to being carried before the skill level of the people that have boosted just can't keep up with the average of the team you're being pitted against?
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Like, there's an end to that. There's a diminishing return on that where, we don't know. It has like, say you boost your friend and then you leave them off. I mean, and they can't hang, then you are kind of ruining games for other people. But I guess I want to try it. Let's see it, because we already see so many concerns and bad experiences in the system we currently have.
Yeah. We had one of the first days that Team League was open to solo queue. I grouped up with a couple of my friends. We had a group of 4, which was like the first time you could do a group of 4, and I was like, oh, this will be a lot of fun. And we kept going up against one guy who was a Masters player, or Grandmaster player, and 4 people that were all suspiciously bronze or silver. And I recognized one of the names as being a name that was backwards of one of my friends who's a Grandmaster player. No. And I was like, so I waited. We lost against this team probably 10 or 11 times in a row. Mm-hmm. And because the group of friends I was playing with, we were like mostly gold or plat. And I messaged him, and he named off everyone, and there were 4 people all on Smurfs. And they were like, we were just trying to see if we can get this guy to #1 GM in Team League. And I will say he is not #1 in Team League right now, so they did not accomplish their goal. So I definitely understand the concern, but I do agree that if you leave someone up there and then they try to play on their own, they'll go back down to where they belong. But if they never play alone, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, we won't know who can earn something by themselves and who did get boosted. I think that's the concern from people. But again, I think generally the change is still healthier for the game in the long run.
I think thinking of the game as a product, thinking of the game as a complete package, that the success of the first come first serve pick, like no pick order, is just phenomenal. The queue times, it's such a overall, yes, there are ways to abuse the system. Not refuting that, but I think the positives of no pick order and queue times outweigh the concerns about abuse. Plus, not to mention that I don't think anyone here, we still haven't brought up the fact that we used to be able to duo queue in Hero League, and I just don't think that was that bad back when you could duo queue in Hero League. I don't think it was.
And they were honest about it with us with that. They said that it is too divided of a topic, 50-50. The audience wants it, doesn't want it, and they're not going to do it because they simply can't come to a conclusion. In their own team, they're debating whether or not duo queue would be okay. But they did reveal to us some really cool internal statistics that showed things like demotion and promotion matches have to go, particularly demotions, because people stop playing. And if you are going to fall from diamond into plat, you're not going to want to go into plat, so you quit playing for the whole season. And in that way, they're reducing, they finally said they're going to reduce the placements down to 3, and they're going to give a quest. And as you complete that quest over the whole season, that is where you get your rewards. 10 games gets you that portrait. I'm making this up now, but 20 games gets you the mount, and then so on and so forth. Keeping playing unlocks those as we go.
And just to reiterate everything Kyle just said, was as an example.
Yes, I made everything except for the dev stuff I said up.
Yeah, and that seems like kind of a very small thing for a lot of people, that like the idea of having a quest that keeps you going and playing more. But around like the meta for Grandmasters and Masters, this was one of their biggest issues, was that there were so many people who would get like to Masters or Grandmasters and would never play enough to find their true rank. So they would stay there for so long when they could just be like platinum players that got lucky one season and they only play their placements every single time. So This idea of having having these like quests, like what you said as an example, 5 games gets you your thing, 25 games gets you your mount or whatever. Once again, an example. Every person I've talked to for that has been ecstatic about it. They've said that is one of the best changes, and it's going to completely change like the higher end meta of not meta, but player base, and for the better.
And I think my final point on this is that if you are concerned, and I think if anything, our conversation here says that we're not sure, we don't know. If there's any game that I am more comfortable with taking these kinds of risks, it's Heroes of the Storm, because the rapid iteration cycle, the speed at which they make changes, that they adjust this game it's so fast, and I do believe that they listen to the community, that I say go for it, take a risk, because they're not too slow. I'm not concerned that we're going to be stuck with a broken product for too long of a time.
We also know there's going to be 2 sort of learning tools being added to the game, which could be, fundamentally groundwork, foundation. A very big thing.
Have they said what they are?
Yes.
Oh, I missed this.
Granted, I always say things a little scandalous, so you may not be that impressed. The first is that Quick Match is getting its matchmaker. You get a tank.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't know that was considered a learning tool, but yeah, that makes total sense.
But that's just the thing. Like if you run, Ana, and you end up with an actual tank to fire on, and they move slow and they're big and you can hit them, then you might start thinking you like Ana, and who knows what sort of impact that could have on the actual gameplay, right? They've also said that performance-based matchmaking, they ran for the entire year in the background. They ran it, and it can't be used for points. But it does simulate what your character could have done better, and they're going to alert you when the game is over. So, for instance, and I'm making this one up again, they could say that your Tassadar could have shielded X amount more because that ability was on cooldown that much. You could have used your Phoenix 5 more times in our simulations, but you did X amount of damage less because you babied it.
I love that. Also, that is hilarious. So they accidentally made a way better end of game tip tool.
Yeah. But the meta changes too fast, and the point recovery system or deduction system just didn't work on all the leagues. So instead, they're giving loss forgiveness. You have an AI, you got an AI, that game doesn't count.
Yeah. We knew that was coming for a while now.
Yeah.
I think this is all great. To NotParadox.
Oh, I was just going to say, for performance-based matchmaking, I asked a Blizzard employee about this something like 5 or 6 months ago, and they said the tank was the hardest one to figure out because there was no major statistical clue to tell you whether or not you're doing your job correctly. Because a good tank is going to be like zoning in bushes, so they're not going to be taking free damage. So you could be taking less damage than a worse tank and be losing points for actually playing correctly. So they said tank was like the hardest, and one of the ways that they were just like, there's absolutely no way to do performance-based matchmaking with a tank. So, or at least with the extra bonus or minus points or whatever.
And I got to see it at BlizzCon every year. It's magical because you see this particular one was an ETC. They would run in and auto attack and then use their heal, or the Muradin jumps in and gets targeted by everything, and they're wondering how they're dying because they're World of Warcraft players at BlizzCon, and they think they're standing and they're like in tower range, they're soaking everything, and the thing told it was a tank. Why am I not invincible?
I wasn't really paying attention to that, but now that you mention it, I feel like I just saw the Matrix.
Yeah,
but I guess it's a good time to kind of just start wrapping stuff up, right? I think we hit all the major topics.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one is armor doesn't stack anymore. It'll be the highest amount of armor that you have received, kind of like movement speed, kind of like stuns. If you hit a second stun and a second stun, you don't get stunned for 2 seconds. It doesn't add together. So now that sort of matches other systems, and we have a new visual with it, and it looks nice.
The visual is great.
Yeah,
the new armor.
You can tell what they have. Yeah, you can really tell what they have now.
You can tell that they have it.
Yeah, it's great interface design. I was hoping I would run into an interface designer. I don't know their names. I don't know what they look like. But if you're listening to this and you are on the interface team at Heroes of the Storm, you deserve a round of applause. That's all I have to say. So anyways, I'm so glad we were able to do this, guys. This was a lot of fun. I guess let's start at the end at Kristen. And Kristen, where can everybody find you when you're not sitting in a hotel room?
A seedy hotel room with a curtain behind us. You can find me on the internet, which is even seedier.
Hotels have curtains.
We're at the Hilton.
Seedy hotel. At _Kristen Ashton _ over on Twitter. You can also find me during the week, Monday through Thursday, twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson, where we play and talk about Heroes of the Storm, and we play other games. And then Saturday, twitch.tv/Frogpants, there will be dungeons.
Kyle?
Oh, well, you should definitely check out the video on youtube.com/Kyle Fergusson of Kristen and I destroying on Orphea. It was a delight. We had a lot of fun torturing the poor BlizzCon attendees while on stage.
Shame somebody in chat. Well, I didn't shame him, but it's funny. I got excited. I'm not too aggressive in chat in Heroes of the Storm, but we're at BlizzCon, right? And this person in chat, we're losing to a team that's much better than we are, and we've got nubs on our team. It's BlizzCon. They're going to be people who've never played the game before. And this Blaze starts ripping in. Do I need to stop?
No,
okay. Okay. So this Blaze starts ripping into the team, and I just tell him to don't be a dick. And then he shuts up, and we have a good rest of the game.
All right. My name is NotParadox. Again, you can usually find me on YouTube. youtube.com/NotParadox. On Twitch, I stream like maybe twice a month. NotParadox TV is my handle there. And then my Twitter, I do posts, try to post when I'm streaming, which is not_paradox. So feel free to check out any of those.
So glad you could join us, dude. We just happened to sit together at the HGC finals. As always, folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. Everything's at emove.tv. This was just great. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you tweet at Blizz Heroes. Let them know that you appreciate them treating us so nice and bringing us out for BlizzCon, because that kind of stuff does matter. They want to know that you appreciate that we get to make this content because of the fine way that they treat us. So thank you for that. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Good luck and have fun. Take care.